Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Definitely.
So it's this English learning podcast called Daily Money Briefing.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
It's actually pretty cool. You get the
Yeah.
financial news and kind of a language lesson all in one.
Oh, I like that. Sort of killing two birds with one stone.
Exactly.
You're here because you want the key insights without the noise. Today, we're looking at South Korea, the economy, some pension trends, and also these big election promises floating around.
Exactly. Our goal is really to connect those dots for you. See how the economic growth figures, the aging population, and the political spending ideas all interact.
Okay, let's dive right in. The big headline figure South Korea's economic growth. Well, it ranked lowest among 19 major nations in Q1 2025. That's quite something.
It really is. The Bank of Korea reported minus 0.246% real GDP growth from the previous quarter. So a slight contraction, actually.
Minus 0.246. Wow. And how does that stack up globally?
Well, you contrast that with, say, Ireland, which saw growth over 3%. China and Indonesia were both over 1%. So, yeah, it's a stark difference.
So what's driving that low number for South Korea? What's the main drag?
It really seems to be structural weakness, mostly in domestic demand, thinking private spending, people buying things, and also construction activity. Both were sluggish.
Right. Weakness from within, essentially. Okay. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about the pension system. There are some fascinating numbers linked to the aging population.
Absolutely. The speed aging is, well, it's rapid. As of January this year, you had over 200 people aged 100 or older actually receiving national pension payments.
Over 200 centenarians on the national pension.
hmm 63 men, 138 women, to be precise.
And that number itself has grown dramatically, hasn't it?
Oh, hugely. Back in 2010, there were only 13 centenarian recipients. By 2020, it was over 100. And now, just 5 years later, it's basically doubled again.
Wow, that really paints a picture of the demographic pressure building up. What about the actual payments for these older recipients?
Well, it varies, of course, but the data shows around 40% are receiving somewhere between 200,000 and 400,000 Korean won per month.
Okay, which brings us, I think, logically to the third piece. These big election promises and what they might mean for the country's finances. Fiscal health seems like a key concern here.
It definitely is. You got some pretty substantial pledges being discussed. Lee Jae-myung of the Democratic Party, his proposals are estimated around 100 trillion won. Things like expanding child benefits, some basic income ideas for rural areas.
100 trillion, okay. And on the other side, Kim Moon-soo from the People Power Party.
The focus there is more on large tax cuts. The potential downside is estimates suggest maybe a 70 trillion won shortfall in tax revenue over 5 years because of those cuts.
Right, and this is all happening against a backdrop that's already a bit strained financially.
Exactly. South Korea's already seen a big tax revenue shortfall, about 87 trillion won over the last 2 years. And with economic growth hovering near zero this year, well, it looks like a third straight year of deficit is quite likely.
So you have these ambitious plans potentially costing tens or hundreds of trillions of won or reducing revenue significantly.
But without, really clear roadmaps for how to pay for it all, that's the criticism you hear from experts. Where's the funding? Are these plans sustainable given the current economic climate?
It certainly feels like these threads are tightly interwoven. You've got uh, sluggish economic growth, rapidly growing demand on the pension system due to aging, and then these potentially costly election promises layered on top.
hmm It highlights the really complex balancing act South Korea faces. How do you manage slow growth, support an aging population, and maintain fiscal responsibility, especially when political promises add extra pressure? It's not an easy equation.
So the final thought for you listening is this. When you put it all together, the weak growth figures, the ballooning number of older pension recipients, the fiscal strain, and these unfunded pledges, what might the long-term consequences be? For the economy's stability and, well, for the people living there, something to really think about.
That's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us.